There's a lot of expectations on this football team.
They're dangerous. Watch out.
To achieve the results you want, it doesn't happen on game day. It happens today with every breath you take.
This guy is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Push each other. Make it hurt. It's time to rewrite our story.
Hello and welcome to the second season of the Hard Knocks podcast. I am Dan Hanzus, longtime Hard Knocks scribe for NFL.com, and yes, long-suffering Jets fan since 1988. And I'm joined by my lovely co-host and a fellow Hard Knocks addict, Colleen Wolfe. Connie, we doing this again?
We're running it back. I'm so excited for you specifically because I get to watch you kind of live and die by this Hard Knocks season with the Jets. And that's a whole different layer. This is a whole new thing for me. I can't wait.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited. I've always loved this show. And when the rumors are percolating out there about the Jets being involved with this season, especially after the arrival of Aaron Rodgers, it seemed too good to be true. And now here we are. This is our episode previewing the 5-run episode of Hard Knocks starting on Tuesday, August 8th, focusing on the Jets for the second time in the program's history. Connie, obviously a legitimate buzz and anticipation around this season in New York, both because of the memories of how fun the Rex Ryan season was back in 2010, but more so because of Rodgers, obviously, and how he's kind of taken this team and transformed it from this downtrodden squad, which, by the way, owns the longest postseason drought in North American professional sports entering this season, into, as Hard Knocks producers are selling it this season in the trailer, you heard at the top of the show, the most compelling team in football. And I have to say, Connie, this is all a little bit overwhelming for me. But it's not wrong, right?
I love it.
Like, they might not be the Super Bowl favorite, but pound for pound, just like storylines, juice. There's nobody like the Jets right now, which is just, considering what the last decade or so has been like, it's pretty crazy how quickly change happens in the NFL.
This sets up so perfectly. First of all, they could not buy publicity like this for the show that they've received over the last week week and a half, I guess now, with all of the Sean Payton and Nathaniel Hackett fire. Like, that is just such, it's like catnip right now for me. And as a Jets fan, I can't even imagine, because with the Eagles, when they started to get good, the year that they won the Super Bowl, that's when I started kind of like feeling like everyone started talking about the Eagles more nationally. There was buzz that it was right that they were getting it. They should have been getting all of that buzz, but it still, to me, felt so strange for the Eagles to be that team. And now I feel like with you, it's like the Jets right now, it's all anyone wants to talk about. And rightfully so, because of everything that's happened. Like, Method Man was at training camp the other day when I was hosting ITC, and I was in Pittsburgh, and all I wanted to do was be with the Jets and Method Man. That was my first ever concert I went to, was Red and Meth in Philadelphia. I was so starstruck, and I think Steve Smith Sr. was starstruck too, talking to him at Jets. Like, it's going to be such a good season for it to be in New York, for it to be around this team that has been, as you said, so downtrodden for so many years. And then to have the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, there, who, love him or hate him, he's going to make people talk. And I've also done like a total 180 on him just from one soundbite. So I can't wait to see how I feel from the beginning of this series until the end.
Wow, one soundbite. Do you happen to have that one soundbite?
You know what? I think we should take a listen to it. This is Aaron Rodgers breaking down the huddle at camp the other day.
Aaron, what do you got for us, baby?
Oh, I got nothing, man. I'm just happy to be out here, excited to be with you guys. All I'm going to say is this camp is a long camp, right? Let's just enjoy the little things every single day, right? Take time to laugh a little bit. find a conversation at lunchtime with somebody new. Don't always sit with the same group. Get to know your teammates a little bit. Yeah, that's part of that leadership role. And just enjoy the little moments. It goes by fast, and you get to be really old and gray, and you're savoring every little moment. So savor them right now. All right? Cues on 3. 1, 2, 3. Cues.
Connie, he seems Rodgers this deep into his career after that incredible run with the Packers and then how it ended. He does seem revitalized and really excited to be kind of at the focal point of this team. What is it about that clip that you kind of you were gravitating towards?
It's just sort of like I'm so used to hearing Aaron Rodgers with the media be just kind of standoffish and kind of brush things off and maybe be a little arrogant about things. And that was just genuine and sincere to me. And the message of just enjoy the little moments. It goes by fast, savor every moment. I think for me, I just take anything that I use football as an analogy for everything in my life because we're around football so much. And so when I heard that, he's talking about training camp, but I hear it as life. And so that to me just felt like a really sweet little window into what we don't normally see. And I also loved that Nathaniel Hackett, he threw to him, was like, Aaron, what do you got for us, babe? And that just, it really, really, really made me so happy to hear Hackett call Aaron Rodgers babe. Like, that's it. I'm in.
Yeah, that the Hackett of it all, and it really is a gift from the football gods, a gift from the NFL films gods, that Sean Payton, Broncos head coach, trashes Hackett and the previous regime in Denver. Hackett, of course, flamed out spectacularly in his didn't even make it through the last season with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And here's Hackett now trying to resuscitate his career. Aaron Rodgers, in a lot of ways, threw him this lifeline, even if he didn't do it directly, because everyone knows Hackett is so close to Rodgers that they could call him babe. So the Jets, don't get it twisted here. The Jets very pointedly, after the disappointment of Zach Wilson in the past 2 years, targeted Hackett, yes, because he has a pedigree and has had success in his career before Denver, but also, and especially because he's very close to Aaron Rodgers in what was part of a long, long period of courtship that led to the Jets landing Rodgers. So for this show to start with the cameras, the crews at Jets camp, right when Peyton gets a little loose and out of pocket with USA Today, it was wonderful. And you saw Rodgers spoke with Peter Schrager of NFL Network candidly about, I believe, Sean Payton, keep my coach's names out of your mouth, as if he's going to beat the hell out of him in week 5. But what I really liked, Connie, was Robert Saleh stepping up to the podium. And there's been talk about whether, the Jets and other teams wanted to be on the show. But you see Saleh kind of embracing the moment and issuing a clapback to Peyton, to the media. And we just play the clip, Connie. But I thought, since this is the Hard Knocks podcast, the premiere of season 2, why don't we put a little of that iconic David Robideau score underneath as a little preview, as a little taste of how that wonderful soundtrack for Hard Knocks for 2 decades and counting really dresses up everything and makes it even better. Here is Saleh with a little Robideau accompaniment.
Well, I'm not going to acknowledge Sean on that. He's been in the league a while. He can say whatever the hell he wants. But as far as what we have going on here, it's boom. I kind of live by saying, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. So hate away. It's obviously we're doing something right if you got to talk about us when we don't play you till week 4. And I'm good with it, but the guys in our locker room, they've earned everything that's coming to them, and really excited about what's going on. I think Hackett's doing a phenomenal job here. The coaching staff is doing a phenomenal job, and we're focused on us. I get it. There's a lot of external noise. There's a lot of people who are hating on us. There's a lot of people looking for us to fail. There's a lot of crows pecking at our neck. But all you can do is spread your wings, keep flying high until those crows fall off and suffocate from the inability to breathe. It's all another analogy I'll get into later.
Wait, hold on a second. Wow, Robert Saleh, he's gonna be a star. I already know it. If you ain't got no haters, then you ain't popping. So hate away. That needs to be, someone needs to take like a rap like bed and remix that for me because that could be huge. But the way that he goes off at the end and all of a sudden like they're flying and crows are suffocating, like that gave me a little bit of Dan Campbell vibes that I was not expecting. A little twist. Oh, I love Robert Saleh. This is gonna be such a good season.
Yeah, Saleh was built for this. Dan Campbell, of course, the head coach of the Lions. We chronicled that show last summer, and it was a great season of Hard Knocks, which I think is also building into the anticipation for this year because I thought the Lions season kind of revitalized interest in this long-running franchise in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's great. I can't wait to see how the Jets as a whole kind of react to the cameras and how you see who steps up and who becomes um, larger than life figures like a Jamal Williams or Deuce Staley last year, because you never know. And along the lines of again, as a fan of the team, beyond just covering the sport, I think about what are the real life storylines to track that you could actually. What is the news value potentially in having the Hard Knocks production team there? First and foremost for me is Aaron Rodgers and the progress of this offense. I think, and we're gonna share our MVP predictions a little bit later. We're gonna share maybe a fearless prediction for the season a little bit later. But I want to see how the offensive line is coming together with Rodgers and not a new offense, but in new surroundings and a new environment. Also, Connie, how about a little Garrett Wilson versus Sauce Gardner practicing every day? The offensive player of the year against the defensive player of the year. That's got to be catnip for Hard Knocks.
That's gonna be so, so good. I mean, the offensive line is gonna get so much attention. That's like for me also number one. But I'm excited to see this group of wide receivers behind Garrett Wilson, like Mecole Hardman coming in, and what does Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard, where did they fit into the puzzle? And it's just like there's so many different ways you can go, and there's so many storylines. And I know that the Jets didn't want this and they publicly said it, but to me that makes it even better.
Sure, you lean into it at this point. Other storylines:
Mm-hmm.
Dalvin Cook, as of this recording, is not a member of the New York Jets, but he's been to camp. He's taking selfies with fans. He's taken a physical with the team. That is a storyline set against the backdrop of Breece Hall, who I thought, I know Garrett Wilson won Rookie of the Year. I think if Breece Hall doesn't blow out his knee last year in October, I think he wins Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year in a walk. That's how incredible his rookie year was shaping up to be before that unfortunate injury. How is his recovery documented on the show? Sometimes on Hard Knocks, you expect when it's covering a team that has a high-profile player coming back from injury, you expect that to be a storyline. But what happens is these guys are rehabbing kind of off to the side in their own world. You end up not seeing them at all. I'd like to see where Breece Hall is at. And then the one more Colleen I have is the Zach Wilson of it all. I mean,
oh yeah,
this Aaron Rodgers, this saga, and this whole new world that the Jets are in, it's because of number 8, Aaron Rodgers. And the only reason Rodgers is here is because the Jets used a number 2 overall pick on a kid out of BYU, Zach Wilson, 2 years ago, who flamed out in an epic manner. And who, by the way, his hero growing up was, wait for it, Aaron Rodgers, the most compelling team in football. And now they're working together in the quarterback room. He is the number 2 quarterback of the Jets. And to go from the face of the franchise to the background with Aaron Rodgers and being the understudy, I'm just I'd be interested to learn about Wilson and his journey, because it's very unusual, his path as a number 2 overall pick and where he is now in just year 3.
Yeah, and we're taping this on Thursday night of Hall of Fame weekend. So the Hall of Fame game is tonight. I'm in Canton. So as soon as we're done recording this, I'm going to head over to the stadium. Zach Wilson is starting in the game. And I just want to get a feel for our Hard Knocks team. Like, I want to see them live. I want to know I'm just like excited for there to be a game, even though it doesn't really like count as a game, but it's going to feel like a game, and that the Jets are there. Like, that's the only reason I'm going. I
mean, yeah, and we'll get it. We got Rich Cimini of ESPN about to throw in an interview that I did with Rich a day ago, and we're going to touch on the Jets being, again, the center of everything right now in Canton, with the Hall of Fame inductions, and then the game. A lot to get to. In fact, why don't we do that? Why don't we throw it to my conversation with Rich Cimini, longtime scribe covering the Jets, and then we'll come back and we'll share some predictions and we'll say goodbye. Stay right there.
All right, welcome back to the Hard Knocks podcast preview of the New York Jets' second time on this illustrious program. And I could not have a better guest to talk about the Jets and the history of the team and the history of the team on Hard Knocks than the great Rich Cimini, who has covered this team since 1989. That's longer than any beat writer in the history of the organization. So when you want Jets history, if you want an idea of the pain of the franchise and perhaps a path to glory, Cimini is the guy. Welcome, Rich, to the Hard Knocks podcast.
Well, thank you, Dan. I had 2 words: Joe Walton. That was the first coach I covered. That gives you some semblance of perspective of where I'm coming from.
My goodness. And thanks, Rich, for giving us some of your time here during a very busy summer. Next stop for you, I know, is Canton for the Hall of Fame game. That's a Jets game. And there's the Hall of Fame inductions of Darrelle Revis and Klecko, who you always pounded the table for Klecko as a man who deserved it, and he did, and now he's going in. The Jets, and Rich, better than anyone, things change quickly in pro football, but the Jets are the hottest ticket in the sport right now, and now you got Hard Knocks coming up. This is kind of all wild, obviously, with Rodgers at the center of everything.
Yeah, I would say that it's probably the biggest buzz, the buzziest time in Jet history that I've covered, at least. I mean, in 2008 with Brett Favre, it was pretty wild. It was pretty hyped up there, but that happened so fast. He didn't get here until early August, and so that was like the accelerated buzz program. This has been kind of a gradual build, really since March, when Rodgers came out publicly and said, "I want to play for the Jets." So this has been more of a slow build, and it's insane around Jet camp. I mean, every day there's celebrities walking the sideline. Liev Schreiber the other day, Method Man, was out there. I was standing next to him on the sideline a couple of days ago. So you just never know who's going to show up, and everyone wants to be around the Jets these days, I guess.
Which is bizarre because, we've been doing our Around the NFL podcast, this going into our 11th season, and that coincides with the longest dry stretch of any team in North American sports in terms of the postseason. So for this team to have this amount of buzz, there is an element of, is Lucy going to take the football away? Everything's been going so perfectly so far for the most part, besides like Mekhi Becton or whatever. But in general, you feel so good about it. And I just like on the Hard Knock side of things, Rich, I just want to start a little bit with like the hand wringing from the Jets and all the other teams initially about, we don't want to be on Hard Knocks, keep us out of that show. And then I got to call BS, Rich, because then you see the drama around Sean Payton, Nathaniel Hackett, and the comments that were made by Payton, obviously out of pocket. And then Saleh steps up to the podium and he has a very prepared response. He's quoting rap lyrics. What was it? If you
ain't got no haters, you ain't popping.
Right. Thank you, Robert. And all I could think is he's embracing this, and he's not going to say it because he's a big, tough football guy, and cameras are bad. But what better vehicle for a head coach in this league? And head coaches have egos. It's not just the players. Than Hard Knocks. Like, this is a huge star-making vehicle for Robert Saleh, and I was happy to see that because it's clear. And he had I Heart HK shirt at the start of camp. He's leaning into this now, and that's going to be good for everybody, including the viewers of the show.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets will be entertaining. I think Aaron Rodgers is the most interesting guy in the NFL right now, so that'll be a huge storyline, obviously, in the first and many episodes. And yeah, the Jets pushed back. I mean, they came out publicly and said, we do not want to do Hard Knocks, and the NFL has the right to make anybody do it. And I'm glad the NFL pushed back, because no one wanted to see New Orleans or Chicago on Hard Knocks. Everyone wanted to see the Jets. I think from a fan perspective, from an entertainment value, you wanted to see the Jets. You got the Jets. But, it's so crazy. Just a quick little snapshot. On Sunday, Dalvin Cook was visiting the Jets. And part of me thinks that was a whole thing staged for Hard Knocks. Everywhere he walked on the practice field, there was a boom mic over his head. There was a camera eavesdrive. He was talking to Woody Johnson on the sideline. There you see the boom mic over their heads. I guarantee you that's going to be in the first episode, free agent talking to the owner. And so, yeah, I mean, there's definitely the presence around camp for sure.
Yeah, I would say, Rich, that, my fandom is leaning, and I'm a Jets fan, and the 2010 Hard Knocks, and I basically covered the Hard Knocks beat for NFL.com for 10 years. This is the second year we're doing a podcast off it. I still don't think there was a better season than the Rex Ryan 2010 season, which coincided with the Jets' last playoff appearance, getting to the AFC title game, the peak of the Rex era. You were there for that. And is there a difference, I would say, based on what you just told me about One Jets Drive, which wasn't around back then, in terms of how it looks and feels? Does it seem busier around the camp, or is it more or less got a similar vibe to 2010?
It's a little different. I mean, back then Rex Ryan was completely unfiltered, So with Rex, he would say anything, and I don't think you're going to see as many F-bombs in this year's Hard Knocks. Robert Saleh does not curse. At least he doesn't around us. It's just not his thing. And when I remember writing a story on Rex after the first episode, there were so many F-bombs that he actually made a crack at a press conference that said, I got a call from my mother. She was very upset about all the cursing. And you remember Tony Dungy came out at the time and said, that wasn't cool with that much cursing.
Oh, pipe down, Dungy.
I know,
Dungy with the moralizing all the time.
He said the league should look into it. Goodell should, look into this. And I remember reaching out to the NFL for a comment, and I got an email back from Greg Aiello, the PR guy at the time. I said, are you guys going to do anything? And he wrote back and he said, I think Rex's mother has already handled this. And so it became kind of a story about Rex's cursing. I'm pretty sure we're not going to have a cursing issue in this Hard Knocks.
Okay, that's good. In terms of the key to a Hard Knocks season is kind of the breakout stars, the charismatic guys. Sometimes they'll surprise you. It could be a undrafted free agent linebacker. It could be the second string running back. It could be a star in the team. Do you have anybody that comes to mind as a player, or maybe somebody from the coaching staff that jumps out as a potential Hard Knocks MVP? We have a whole voting system, Colleen and I, that we tabulate as the season goes along. Like, who should we be keeping an eye out on odds-wise?
I think they're going to try to make something out of Michael Clemens, their defensive end from Texas A&M, a second-year player. He is a man of few words, but you saw him coming into training camp carrying that bat from the barbed wire bat in. So I think Clemens, even though he doesn't say a lot, you can make something out of it. He's a very intimidating guy. His body is just sculpted. So they could try to make something out of Michael Clemens. I think Nathaniel Hackett is a really energetic, outspoken guy. I think his meetings are really different. I mean, they play Jeopardy in the quarterback meetings, which is, of course, perfect for Aaron Rodgers because, he's hosted in the past. So I could see something with Hackett. He's got that kind of personality. And of course, Rodgers will be everything he says on the field, just little words of wisdom that he's sharing with teammates. That'll all be, gobbled up. I'm sure that'll make some good copy.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone with Hackett from a narrative standpoint. And then Payton served up this like gorgeous meal on a platter for episode one, because you keep hearing, and you hear it all the time, for people on the outside, fans, the coaches say, oh, Hackett makes it fun. But you never really hear how he makes it fun. So the opportunity here, I mean, this is a huge spot for Hackett too, who got a lifeline from the Jets. And let's face it, Rodgers coming off, Payton was not wrong about that, a disaster of a season. And I could definitely see him coming off very well on the show. We do have to get to the Rodgers of it all, Rich, because let's frame it this way. 8 years ago, Rich, I call you up, and you've always been very nice and sharing of your time, and I always appreciate it. But back in 2015, you were nice enough to grant me an interview for this write-up series I was doing on NFL.com called The Pain Rankings. And we talked about a supposed curse of Broadway Joe, and you said this to me: I don't really think it's a curse. They don't have a quarterback. If they have a quarterback, they wouldn't have this problem. The ownership has changed. The coaches have changed. They've changed stadiums. Everything has changed. I just think if they could ever find a quarterback, it could get them over the hump. They have a quarterback now, Rich. Have you had the opportunity to have any one-on-one interaction with Rodgers? And I know we mentioned Favre, which felt totally different, including Favre never really wanted to be with the Jets. He's just trying to get to the Vikings to stick it to the Packers. That's not how Rodgers is. You can talk about his contract restructuring, just how he's carrying himself. How has been the Rodgers of it all of the Jets?
See, we got the ultimate battle set up here. It's Rodgers versus the curse. It's like two powerful forces going against each other. Who will prevail? Rodgers has been great to deal with, and obviously he's been trying really hard to be accommodating, both public relations wise with the fans, going to all those events around, New York City, the Tonys, the Broadway shows, MSG, and then even with the media, he's been fantastic. We have not had one-on-one interviews with him. We did get an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with him, some of the writers away from the microphones back in I guess it was May or June. And so that was cool, to get to know him a little bit. But he's been great. He gives you such thoughtful answers. He says he welcomes hard questions. He goes, he prefers hard questions. I can't remember ever an athlete coming out and saying, give me hard questions. So we'll see how he reacts if he throws 3 picks against Buffalo on September 11th. It's like, hey, Aaron, what happened on this pick? Is he going to be as accommodating then? We'll find out. But he's hit all the right notes, Dan. He couldn't have scripted a better first few months with a new team in a new city.
Between you and I and the people listening, is that man, when you listen to him and you converse, is he for real? Is he, full of it?
I don't know. If you ask the Green Bay writers, they might say he's full of it. But, they were around the guy for 18 years. So I can understand the fatigue factor. I've never covered a player for 18 years. God knows no one on the Jets ever lasts that long. It's more of a revolving door situation. So I wouldn't know what that's like. But he seems genuine to me. I don't know. Ask me again in a few months. When there's gonna be hard times. This is not going to be an easy thing. He's learning he's not learning a new offense, but he's trying to teach a new offense to all these players. It's not going to click automatically. There's going to be some rough patches. They'll probably happen early, and so we'll find out a little bit more then. But all I can go by is what I see and what I hear, and he's been fantastic so far.
It is going to be a gold mine of storylines and a season that everyone should be excited about, Jets fans and otherwise. Rich, any Hard Knocks predictions before we say goodbye?
Well, I don't think you're going to get the usual Hard Knocks conclusion where they're cutting players, in the last episode or, leading up to that. I think the Jets are philosophically opposed to that. And I'm sure you know the reason, right, Dan? Joe Douglas, when in the first Hard Knocks with the Baltimore Ravens way back in 2000 or 2001, Joe Douglas was the poor sap who got to walk around and tell players to bring their playbooks.
He was the Turk?
He was the Turk.
Whoa, I did not know that.
That was his first job in the NFL. He was a low-level personnel assistant, basically right out of college, and he was the guy. So he got FaceTime on Hard Knocks, knocking on doors saying, Coach wants to see you.
It was ruthless in the early years of that show, too. They leaned into that side of it for the dramatic effect, obviously.
Yeah, so I remember talking to Joe in recent years, and I think that left some scars. He just hated doing that. So I would be surprised if we see that happening on Hard Knocks. I don't think the Jets are going to do that, and I can see why Joe Douglas would have some thoughts, some deep-seated emotions from having done it himself. So I think you won't see that. That'll be my prediction. And here's a wild prediction. Could they take a page out of the Revis playbook from 2010? Could there be a Dalvin Cook returning on the last episode of Hard Knocks, signing with the Jets? Could that be a possibility? I'm just throwing that out there.
Do they still go to Cortland? They don't go to Cortland anymore, right?
No, there's no Cortland factor.
So there's no Roscoe's Diner then either.
There's no Roscoe, which every time I stop at the Roscoe Diner on the way to Syracuse, I think, tweet a photo, because it brings back memories of that. But I'm just throwing that out there, Dan. Could there
I
be
love it.
a Dalvin Cook sighting in the last episode? We'll find out.
And God knows, Rich, that there's no shortage of diners in Jersey to go have a pork roll and sign the dotted line.
Florham Park Diner right down the road. Boom.
Beautiful. Rich, thank you so much for your time. Busy time of year, exciting time of year for the Jets and their beat writers. I texted you privately that I just want to, before we're all in the ground, I want to be at a Jets Super Bowl with my dad and my brother and Rich Cimini covering it from the press box, and I will go up to you and I will shake your hand, sir. Win, lose, or draw. Well, there will be a winner or loser in that game, but I will be there with you.
Let's hope I get to cover something like that.
Beautiful.
And you get to attend.
Thank you, Rich.
All right. See you then.
There he goes, Rich Cimini. That guy, again, 1989, he started covering the team, so
Wow.
he knows this squad well.
Yeah, he knows them well. And for him to say that this is the buzziest time since he's been with the team since 1989 really speaks to us. And I'm still on Method Man. I'm just still so heartbroken that I wasn't there that day. But
I'm sorry
it's
about that.
It's really cool.
But I will say, Eminem, I don't know if Marshall Mathers is watching a lot of Lions games. Method Man's legit. He's from Staten Island, which is the home of many Jet fans. And he, I believe, is a season ticket holder. I like, if I'm going to see celebrity cameos on the sidelines for a buzzy team on Hard Knocks, make it the real ones. I don't want to see guys pretending. Did you see Liev Schreiber, our boy, the longtime narrator of Hard Knocks? They fly him in, or wherever they bus him in, to meet Aaron Rodgers. This is the first time it's going to be. I assume, I don't know actually if they're going to share it in the premiere episode. Rodgers meeting Schreiber, who's Rodgers is a big fan of Schreiber. Are we going to see that the first time you actually see Liev Schreiber on this program? Pinch me.
Oh, I know. And listen, Dan, you know that there's nothing I love more than the summer of Connie. It is my time to truly unplug and let loose. But having Hard Knocks and having this season of Hard Knocks to kind of have a smooth transition into the work season, into the grind that is the regular season and playoffs and everything. This is the perfect kind of way to end Summer of Connie and begin whatever is next. I love it.
Beautiful. All right, let's get into last year. We have a new producer, Eric Roberts, who is going to have to learn about our very detailed tabulation, Connie, of how we do voting on the Hard Knocks MVP. I believe Campbell won it last year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but very memorable,
but
obviously.
Deuce Staley was right up there. Who, by the way, Dan, I saw Deuce Staley at Panthers camp.
Yes.
And I know he was such a huge character on our show last year. And I know him from Philadelphia, from covering the team and seeing him out and about. But I didn't know that we were on that friend level at this point. And he ran over to me and was like, "Oh my God, the Philadelphia Queen." And then gave me the best coach pep talk I didn't even know that I needed in my life. Talking about my preparation, my approach, my finish to things. And I was like, I guess I have that, huh? And so he's like, you can really tell that you always come prepared and blah, blah, blah. And I just walked away being I was reinvigorated and I was just ready to run through a wall for Deuce Staley.
The Lions let a good one get away there. You got to keep Deuce in the building. I now I feel like we maybe should have had him on the show last year. I didn't realize you guys were on such tight terms.
Me either. It's great. We're friends.
But Deuce is a perfect example. I believe he was he was an assistant coach and the running backs coach, and he was a standout last year. And that's a nice transition. Deuce, are you listening? Because this is a pretty good way to transition if you like how I do. Anyway, Hard Knocks MVP predictions. How about this?
Yes.
Another assistant coach. We mentioned him, Nathaniel Hackett. All you hear, and talked about a little bit with Rich just now, all you hear about is how fun he makes things. I want to see it. I want to see what he does. And I think this is a perfect platform for Hackett to kind of a little more career rehab for the guy. And in addition to see what makes him different as a coach, because man, there's not too many coaches calling Aaron Rodgers babe. There's a different vibe there. I'm going to say he's my dark horse. MVP pick, Hackett, offensive coordinator. How about you?
Oh, I'm completely with you on that. Especially after listening to Nathaniel Hackett's response to Sean Payton, and he came off so likable. He took the high road. He's like, "We all are in glass houses," and this guy is just trying to pick up the pieces of his professional life and move on. And I just think that this is an opportunity, whether or not it's intentional. I think it's going to be unintentional, actually, for Nathaniel Hackett to completely rebrand himself after this season.
Um, but it's got the favorite here, right? And I thought about Sauce because he's larger than life already after just his rookie season and how
Right.
fantastic that was. But I think Saleh is made for this, just like Campbell was made for this. I think he's really
Mm-hmm.
going to be a guy that's larger than life. I don't know how much we're going to see Aaron Rodgers on the show. If he's on it a lot, you're gonna probably say he's the overall favorite for MVP. Who is your pick? If you had to say who's gonna win this thing, our Hard Knocks MVP for season 2 of this podcast.
I think that because I feel like Robert Saleh is going to be the strongest MVP candidate, but Hackett probably is going to appear the most. And because of our voting system, I think he's going to end up like outscoring him, Saleh. But I think for me, a dark horse, I'm going to go with Saleh. I think Saleh. Wow, I'm on the spot and you know what? No.
Yeah.
Number 1 pick for MVP this year, it's going to be Nathaniel Hackett. I'm going
You're
to stick
going with
with
Hackett.
that. I'm going to go with Hackett. And then my dark horse, who we have not talked about yet, is McCole Hardman, because
that is a dark horse.
he's there now and he has such a big personality. I spent some time with him last year before training camp at a shoot with a couple soccer players for the international program. And he is so outgoing and bubbly and gregarious. Like, he can command attention for a room. Also, his nickname is Jet. I don't know if you know that. And so he's
Jet the Jet.
so he has this like iced out chain that says Jet on it. Just feels like he's kind of made for the cameras and New York.
Yeah. All right. That's a good one. And I don't want to spook you about your Hackett pick, but remember last year when we did the Hard Knocks podcast on the Lions, we spent every episode being like, where's Ben Johnson? He's MIA, the offensive coordinator. And then the Lions had one of the best offenses in the league, and now all anybody could talk about is Ben Johnson. So will Hackett be, if he gets the Ben Johnson treatment, we're going to be surprised, I guess. But he's such a juicy narrative topic that I think it's going to be impossible to imagine him not having a big role. I have a fearless prediction. I don't know if you have one, kind of. I don't want to put you on the spot. But
let me hear yours.
Okay, my fearless prediction is, the sad Hard Knocks music? You know when it's sad? Mekhi Becton, the former first-round pick, who they've been so patient waiting for him. He's missed the past 2 years with injuries. He's had conditioning issues. There's been a lot of talk about whether he is invested in the way you need to be a star. The Jets kind of would love for him to be a starting tackle this year. He struggled at the outset of camp here with both his play in practice and also his knee is giving him issues still. My fearless prediction is that you're going to hear the sad Hard Knocks music after Becton has been traded for a conditional 4th-round pick late in training camp. And you're going to see and we don't know how much access we're going to get in terms of like a conversation like that if Becton's in the room. But we're going to see the locker being cleaned out. We're going to see him leaving the facility in a car. That is a fearless prediction on Hard Knocks. And that would be, for the amount of investment the Jets have had in Becton, that is my call.
Say it ain't so. I don't want to see it, Dan. I'm not supporting this because I don't want it to be spoken into existence.
He's so talented. I would love for him to have a great camp and that be a positive storyline, but I'll skew a little negative on that one. Rich Cimini threw out there also Dalvin Cook. Famously, if you're a Jets fan, you remember a perfect ending to the Hard Knocks season in 2010 was Revis after his long holdout. And as contentious as it was in this meeting at Roscoe Diner in upstate New York, the show ends with Revis coming onto the field and joining his teammates after signing the contract. Could it be Dalvin Cook, as Cimini said? I like that as well. That's a little more positive. How about that?
That's great. I love these parallels too. I mean, I totally forgot about that scene with Darrelle Revis walking on. It was so dramatic. Like it's one of the best franchises, Hard Knocks, in sports. Like, and because we're so starved for football, it hits at the exact right time during training camp. At least this first one, it's going to be so good, Dan.
Absolutely, I cannot wait. It is the greatest sports docuseries ever. And they're not paying me to say that. I've always thought that the Hard Knocks is just different. It's wonderfully done, and then they have a great subject in the Jets this season. So we are amped to be back with today's episode and then 5 more to come starting Tuesday. And yes, we will have episodes up every Tuesday night on the night of airing. We'll have that to you, so please have that ready and follow along on the journey with us. Hit the music, Eric behind the glass, and Colleen, you are on the road doing your thing for NFL Network, but get back to the studio. I'll be without you for a part of the premiere, but for the rest of the ride, it's me and you, Jets. How about that?
Let's go.
The most compelling team in football. Till Tuesday, heed the call.